Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our entitled people. In today's episode, EP at Walmart 4 days before Christmas. Entitled employee doesn't feel the need to show up in time, forces someone to drive late at night, blames his boss. Entitled Brad tries to get me fired/imprisoned over $60. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. EP at Walmart 4 days before Christmas. So I left my Christmas shopping to the last minute like I do every year, and I was at Walmart, and like before any holiday it was really busy. I was looking for a gift for my sister and I found a Lego set I thought she'd like, so I grabbed it and headed to checkout. I do not have a bank card, so I get in the line for a till with a cashier. There was an elderly lady in front of me with a cart full of groceries, and she looked back at me and saw that I only had one item, and she told me to confront of her since I have just the one. I thanked her so much and we started chatting while waiting for the line to keep moving. QEP here. The man behind me had twice as many items as the lady who had let me in front of her, and just started yelling at me that I was taking advantage of an old lady and that since I'm young I don't know decent manners and respect. I looked at him with a blank stare and all I said was, "Sir, you do realize you were yelling at a child you do not know in public because a lady was being nice to me, right?" He looked like he was about to blow a fuse and was muttering while I was checking out. I wasn't taking advantage of the lady at all. I had asked her a bunch of times if she was sure and then continued to thank her profusely. I hope she's doing well and will have a great Christmas. Very nice of the elderly lady. I've had that done to me and have always thanked the nice person. I have also allowed others to go before me if I have more than them. The gratitude on some of the faces makes the couple of extra minutes wait worth it. I was so thankful when she did, because I was kinda gonna time crunch since I had walked an hour to the Walmart and then I had to walk an hour back to my mom's work so I would be able to go home. Some people are simply hardwired to give the entire world a collective headache, it seems. Just like Eminem said in his LP, "I don't give a F, someone sent me to tick the world off." It's pretty insulting to the elderly lady as well to presume she can't offer a kind thing without it being because she was being taken advantage of. Entitled employee doesn't feel the need to show up in time, forces someone to drive late at night, blames his boss. I am a middle manager of a company that has a small fleet of 12 trucks. We do a lot of outdoor contract work, and our contracts are spread out often hundreds of kms apart. Recently, an employee who finished a contract early had a few days off. He asked if he could borrow the truck he'd been driving to stop in a town and visit some friends before returning it to HQ. This is technically not allowed, but the truck wasn't needed for a couple of days. I like to fancy myself a nice/chill boss. Edit, I'd also like to note this was pretty common practice at the company I work at. It's never been technically allowed, but people have done this for years, including before my tenure. My friend wasn't the only person I allowed to do this. So I said, "That's okay, just make sure you return it in 2 days before the evening." I emphasized, "I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll let it slide, just please return the truck on time. I will be pretty annoyed if it's not here in time." I didn't explain the exact reason why, namely that someone else would need that truck in the afternoon after he returned it, but I emphasized it was very important. He said he understood and would do it. This employee is a guy I've known a lot time, and we're friends outside of work. So then the day he's meant to return the truck comes up and I check in to ask what his ETA is at 2 p.m. He said he'd stayed out late the previous night and was just getting food now. The town he was in was around 2 hours away from where he needed to return the truck. I said, "Okay, please aim to be back before 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. he was nowhere to be seen. I texted him again at 6:30 and he replied at 7:30 saying he was just leaving now. At this point I was losing patience. I told him hurry up. He asks what the hurry is. I told him I don't need to explain to you why it's a rush and on, if I say be back for 6 p.m. it's for a reason. I realize this is a somewhat snappy response, but we've already established that it's important. I gave him a time. He was evidently busy partying or something and did not take it seriously. He then accused me of power tripping and having an attitude, so I explained to him someone else needed the truck to make a journey, and the later he waited, the later in the evening they'd have to leave, with work set to go next day. I apologized for being short, but impressed the seriousness of the situation on him. He ended up arriving at 10:30 in the evening. The driver he swapped with was not impressed and told him so. My friend is blaming me for this and telling other people that he doesn't like working for me because apparently I'm always power tripping. I guess if he doesn't like working for you, he can find another job. Ta not power tripping, that guy is a loser and you now know never to do him any favors again. And now one person ruined it for the rest of the class. This is why we can't have nice things. Yes, he's entitled, but also you did a poor job as a manager. What if you would have crashed the vehicle while using it on his own personal time? You would have been in major shit for allowing him to take it. Would you allow other people to take a vehicle on their days off? If you're allowing him special privileges because he's a buddy, the other drivers are going to notice that and get pissed when they aren't all of the same opportunities. I hear ya. My personal friend wasn't the only one I allowed to do this though. I'd just like to note that. It's a gray zone. Everyone knew it wasn't allowed, but it was commonly done before and during my tenure as a manager. It's difficult to describe this work culture. This is why rules exist. You screwed up by letting your friend get special privileges. And your friend is entitled as anything. Entitled Brad tries to get me fired/imprisoned over $60. Buckle up, children. This story is going to be a bumpy one. As I mentioned on previous posts, I was a photographer at a well-known theme park and, not to toot my horn, but I was good. So much so that I was made a rover, someone who could go anywhere they want in a specific area. One beautiful sunshiny day in spring, I was rover and decided to go to my favorite spot. It's shady with a beautiful view of our park's major icon, a well-known landmark. Basically anyone sees a picture of it, they know what it is. It's not long before I get a cue and I'm having fun, interacting with guests and taking several photographs of everyone. It's important to note that at this particular park, there's a special boutique where kids 3 to 13 can get a makeover to look like a princess/knight. And when I say makeover, I mean your hair and makeup get done by professional cosmetologists and you have the option to buy high-end costumes, of a much better quality than the normal costumes that you commonly find on sale on property. This service is very popular, to the point that reservations are made 6 months in advance. It's not unusual for people to spend over $200 for the service, including the tip. So I'm taking pictures when this 10-year-old girl, let's call her Becky, shows up with her grandmother, let's call her Rhonda. Now Becky is dressed like Cinderella and we can tell she's had the full service at the boutique. My favorite manager, Oscar, and his manager, Diane, who had just been promoted to the role, arrived to check in on me as Becky and Rhonda step up for their turn. Oscar, Diane and I bow and curtsy respectively and I say, "Why, Cinderella? You never told me you were coming to pay us a visit. Did she tell you, Oscar and Diane?" Oscar, who is familiar with this routine, says, "No, I had no clue," while Diane laughed. Becky is over the moon happy and asks so sweetly if she can have her picture taken. Now I'm a real sucker for well-mannered people. As a reward, I give her a full-on photo shoot and must have took over 40 pictures, showing her how to pose like Cinderella and even using every magic shot, where a character will appear in their picture, at my disposal. I even made sure she got pictures with Rhonda, who I said must have been fairy godmother. This attracts more guests and at the end, everyone is smiling. At the end of the photo shoot, Oscar asks them if they had been to see Cinderella yet. They said they hadn't and he asks if they want to go see her. Oscar leads them to where Cinderella is meeting and makes sure they get to the expedited line so they could see her faster. Later, I learned that Rhonda tried to give us money as thanks but Diane politely turned her down, saying, "This is what we do." I go back to my job with smiling guests, feeling over the moon. Now I know what you're thinking. Where's the entitled parent? Well, prepare for it. The next day, I was clocking in when Oscar calls me into the office, shaken. I asked what was wrong and he told me to sit down because he had a major bombshell to drop. A few hours after Becky's session with me, Rhonda, Becky and Becky's dad, Brad, go to our photo center to look at the pictures. They liked the pictures and wanted to buy them. One of our services is a one-day memory maker, where you get unlimited digital downloads of every photo you've had taken that day. This includes character interactions, ride photos, etc. The going price is $60. Now this seems like a lot, but if you take tons of photos, it's actually quite a steal. Well, Brad decides that he wants it for free for bringing my business here and spending over $1,000 and tries to bully the people working at the photo center to give it to him. Unfortunately, they don't have the power to do this and tell him such. He then declares that he's going to guest relations and they're going to give it to them and he'll make sure they're all fired. This is a common enough threat that holds as much weight as a holy shoe, but one of the photo center techs there felt something wasn't right and called Oscar to alert him. Oscar gets to guest relations just as Brad, Becky and Rhonda get to the desk and Brad launches into his tirade before the GR host can even ask how to help them. Brad demands the one-day memory maker for free for his trouble. Oscar decides to intervene and asks him what happened. That's when Brad decides to shout his famous last words. "Give me the memory maker or I'll say a quiet borderline smacked Becky here so hard that she was left with a black eye." Cue a deathly silence falling over the room. Everyone turns to stare and it's at least 30 seconds before someone pipes up. Now, remember when I said that several guests had watched Becky's photo shoot? Many of them not only waited in line but had stopped by GR to make sure I'd get recognized. One of said families was at the counter with a different GR host when Brad shouted. One of them, having recognized Rhonda, Becky and Oscar, walked over and said to Oscar, "Sir, my family was next in line after the little girl and I just want to say that a quiet borderline was 100% professional and never once touched that little girl. She gave my family the best photographs we've ever taken and made my son feel special when she asked if he wanted a picture with his stuffed bear. If she's fired because of this idiot's attempts to get free stuff, then we'll never come here again. And we'll make sure all of our friends and family know to not come too." According to Oscar, it was like a scene out of a movie as more people came forward and were all demanding for me to keep my job and for Brad to get thrown out of the park. Brad, not wanting to realize that he'd opened Pandora's box, doubles down and insists that I hit Becky. Keep in mind that Becky is right there, has no signs of a black eye and is trying to tell people that I never touched her. Because of the serious allegation, security and OC sheriff get called to ascertain what happened. Thanks to testimony from Oscar/Diane/the guest/Becky and Rhonda, the photographs, and the fact Becky was unharmed, Brad was not only thrown out but got a lifelong ban and DFS was called to do a visit. I still had to write a witness statement and do an interview as lawsuit insurance in case Brad tried something. That someone was willing to get me fired/falsely charged, all over the fact that he didn't want to spend an extra $60, still makes me burn. If the goon squad who shows up to Brad's house is wearing mouse ears, it would be the cherry on top. Just picture a sea of Mickey Mouse ears waiting outside his house, Brad trying to placate them, when all of a sudden you hear a voice rumble with, "I'll give you something to hayek about," the C parts and out steps Goofy with a wide grin rubbing his closed fist into the palm of his other hand. What a way to kill Becky's joy at having such a special Cinderella day. Poor Becky is going to need years of therapy. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.